This board here is basically, let's say, from the 1980s. Time has progressed. We're now moving over to sort of a new enclosure. Let's just quickly open this up. So we will go replacing the asbestos panel with a new panel, which is obviously not as dangerous to your health. With something, it looks just, it's another black panel, but it's got different material that does not cause you any health threat. Some smart fella or person has invented what we call a plug-in circuit breaker. So if the old ceramic fuse, that one here that we had in the past, has blown out and it's not easy to repair, these are easily available. Now that means anyone can get their hands on, whether you're an electrician, a licensed electrician, that's super important, or you know, just somebody that needs to get something quick and easily fixed, which I wouldn't recommend to do, simply because there is a rating obviously of what that breaker can handle. But if you're not familiar with what that actually means and you just grab a random breaker, you can easily overload the circuit, or like the protection that it's meant to do, it's not functioning properly. I mean, you only can see here at the moment, we got all these stickers labeled power, but somewhere along the line we do have a stove, and also we have some lights, which is this one here. So that breaker here, for example, would be too weak if it was plugged into the stove circuit. If you turn on the stove, the breaker would trip. If you have those breakers and you don't know where they're actually meant to be plugged into, this breaker here is like a 16 amp breaker, which is generally for power circuits. That's what that one is for. But if you, for instance, have an issue on a stove circuit and you buy one of those, it might not handle the load for the oven, so it triggers or trips it. If you have a 16 amp, those plug-in circuit breakers, and you stick them into the lighting circuit, that breaker is too big for that actual circuit. So you potentially running the risk of burning the wires out, which then could potentially cause a fire to the property. Also, you instantly lose your insurance because this was done by a qualified tradesperson. So yeah, think about, keep in mind whether you want to save the dime to actually get a qualified electrician out to repair it properly, or if you want to do something after cheap, but cheap turns into something real nasty. These ones there are rubbish. We move on. We want something properly, basically ripping that old board out, get some new enclosures with then new breakers. We have progressed. There was then just general circuit breakers, and then we have safety switches. Them together creating a good combination. Safety switch looks after you, circuit breaker looks after the wiring. Them together are a perfect dream team. Just like everything else in a mobile phone where you can play music, you can take photos, and you do all these other things, has now happened to, not that you can take photos or listen to music, but these breakers here, or RCBOs, are pretty much a combination of them together. So nowadays, this is what we want to do to get rid of all this old stuff here, fit them into these new boards. Now, by the way, this is not a tutorial on how to do your own switchboard, but just giving you a bit of a rundown as to what a new switchboard should look like, fitted with some breakers to each of those circuits, such as light, power, oven, aircon, etc. Any circuits in the house, this is what we need to do to make sure everything is protected, whether it's the oven, aircon. These are super, obviously, important appliances in the house, and it could become costly. And to invest something like this, it's a fraction of the cost of replacing an aircon if something happens to the aircon. So switchboards, that's sort of a bit of a quick rundown, especially for winter season now. We in Australia are heading now into the winter season. That means a lot of people start pulling out their electric heaters, and we want to make sure you are winter-proof, future-proof with the switchboard that can handle all your appliances without any interruption, and so you don't have to sit in the cold and the dark and freezing. Ben from Adelaide Electrical, just thought I will give you a bit of a rundown as to why it's important to look at the switchboard, get an electrician out, either give us a call or your local electrician, do a bit of a health check, and just make sure you give you peace of mind and you're up to scratch. Thank you.